So now we begin part 2 of building Moonwatcher, and what I need to do next is start on the core mold, the mold of the core. You saw me do the core, but now I need a mold of the core so I can make an underskull from it. Now, rather than have me go on ad nauseum about this, I'm just going to show you. So, first of all, I got the core here and I've sanded it down somewhat. I put a little bit of clay around here because I'm going to just take silicone, RTV 1065 from Berman Industries, and I'm going to hand brush this up for about 20 minutes. I've got the faster catalyst, but still, sometimes it can take that long. And just keep brushing it up till it sets off. And then I'm going to back it up with more 1630 for a mother mold, and that will give me a nice slip cast type mold, very similar to what I've got here. This is, of course, the Iron Giant mold. You can see the 1630, and there's the Iron Giant on the inside of that. Now, this is a two-piece mold because it would never come out of there if it was not a two-piece mold. But with this, a one-piece mold should be fine. There could be a little bit of an undercut right in here, so I'm just make sure when I'm building up my silicone that I keep this area pretty thick, and the rest of it should be fine. There's nothing there. It should just slip right off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this clay here and I'm going to build up a wall around here to kind of collect the RTV so it doesn't run off all the way over to here, and I can keep splashing it back up. Okay, so as I said before, we need to get a silicone jacket on this. So I've made up some RTV 1065 V1065 silicone, which is a really good silicone. It's very much like GM1000. Some people will say that's not the case, but I've been using this ever since I started the Enterprise, the big giant Enterprise model I know you've seen me build, and the molds for it are still flexible and nice, and you know, that's 6 years later, so I think it passed. It's cheaper than GI1000, not a great deal, but enough. If you're using a lot of it, it is a savings. So that's the brand I'm using. It's 10% catalyst to 100% by volume or weight. So it's pretty easy to work with, and it comes out this nice blue. This is the slightly faster catalyst. And what we're going to do is this. I'm going to put this all on there, and this will solidify. It will set up. Room temperature vulcanizing is what the RTV stands for, and what that will do is give us a nice flexible skin jacket for reproducing more of this same shape, which is our goal here. So put that on like that, and then keep splashing it up. It'll go off in about 15 minutes or so. It'll start to get slower, and then I'm going to build a jacket out of 1630 over the top of it to help keep its shape. It's called the mother mold. Just in case some of you are new to all of this. And we'll come back in a while and you'll be able to see this all set up, because I'm going to be doing this for the next 15 minutes or so. So this is a little trick that I learned. I mean, one thing you'll know about silicone when you work with it enough is that alcohol will thin it. And so if you got alcohol in your hands and you want to smooth it, and I want to smooth it, because this is going to be I have a mother mold on it, when I don't want little lumps like this that'll make it harder to go back in the mother mold. So I'm just going around and smoothing it, and you can if you get enough on your hands, you can really see that. And I bet a lot of you are watching this who worked with silicone, so I don't know I could do that. But you can. And it gets it pretty nice. Just so, you know, almost as nice as a case mold, but not quite. Like there's a little thingy-bingy there, that a ripple. I'll get rid of that now. And it smooths it out pretty well. So this is at a state right now where it's not going to move much anymore, the silicone, and it's going to set up, and then I'm going to encase this in some 1630 and we'll have our mold. Yeah, Okay, so we got our first splash coat of 1630 on there, and as soon as that gels up a little bit more, we'll be putting on the fiberglass. It's the same thing, but it's important that you know these steps should you ever decide to do something like this. So here we go, we're going to put on the glass. You can see the stuff's kind of tacky still, so it's really easy to get this stuff to stick on there, and I just kind of wipe it down like this, and it just stays pretty well. Where it lifts up like this, you're going to want to run some of the material, the next batch, underneath it, but you want to get it to all go down like that. Really nice, huh? And here goes another batch. Same deal. Going to soak this all into the weave, and which it's doing rather well. And we'll come back when this is all done to show you the finished mother mold, supporting mold, whatever you like to call it. And so there we go. We've got a nice case mold. I keep calling it case mold. Maybe I should tell you what a case mold is. Say you wanted to make a mold of this life mask. Okay? So you could produce another one out of silicone. What you would do is you take that water-based clay, you've seen me work with so many times, and you would cut a thickness about like that, and you would lay it on here. Smooth, easy, all the way around. And you could even put some little keys in it. And you got to make sure this does not move. So you got to keep it locked down somehow. You can glue it. Some people put bolts through. And then, after you get the clay on there, that clay basically replicates the skin and the thickness of the skin, or the jacket will be of the silicone. Okay? So what you do then is you take this material and you pour it over just like this. Then you drill holes all through here, okay? And you put bolts through. Another thing you're going to do too, before you cast this up on the clay, is you have a spout like this in clay. So this comes up around it, you remove that clay, you got a way to pour silicone in. So what you end up with is something like this with a hole in it, sitting over clay. You remove it off, you remove all the clay off the life mask, making sure the life mask does not move. You clean out this jacket, and you put it back over this and bolt it back down. Through the pour hole, you pour the silicone. The silicone comes in, fills up like this, and you exactly fill that void between the two, and when it sets up and you open it up, you've got a perfect jacket that fits perfectly inside, and you don't waste any silicone. Not that I did with this, but that's basically what a case mold is. And at some point in time, I probably do one to show you. But for now, this worked really well too, and it's a little bit faster way to do it, so which is why I chose to do it, and it's just for a core. So here we are, it's Wednesday, and we're gonna open up that core mold and see what's inside. Hopefully really nice things. And we're gonna lay up some epoxy, and you'll see how I work with epoxy, because I know a lot of you like to work with polyester resin because it's cheap. It's cheaper, it is, and it's, you know, you can get lots more of it for a lot less money. But it stinks, and it's brittle, and when it comes out of the mold, if you're not really good with it and know what you're doing, it's sticky. It takes days to be dry enough to sand it, and it just, for me, spend the $150 a gallon for epoxy. You don't use that much of it, and it goes a lot further, and when it's set up, it's beautiful, as you will see as we proceed. So here we go. This is our mold. What I did is I kind of went in there and popped it up like that. It came away really easy, as it should, because there's really nothing holding it down except a little bit of clay that I used to seal the edges. And so what I'm going to do now is remove this, pull it out, and we got a little leakage there, not bad, and clean it out, and we're ready to lay fiberglass. Well, after much hacking and hewing, I got this open. So there we got our core mold and the mother mold. It's very lightweight and very thin skin, but you can see how well that all worked out. Picked up some crud, but it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, I had a little cave in there, so I'm going to have to patch that, but that's really no problem. So we're going to clean all this up, and then we're going to we're going to make a core, lay up some epoxy glass in that. So I need a skull cap, fiberglass skull cap, in order to mount the eventual fiberglass underskull, and all this will become apparent to you, to my head. And this, I need a skull cap that's going to fit my head very well. So here I have this life mask of mine out again, and the reason I put clay on it is so it's slightly oversized. I'm not trying to make myself into Daredevil, but I want to make it slightly oversized so I can pad the inside of it. So I'm going to lay fiberglass and epoxy resin over this, and then that will make a mold that I can make another shape like this out of, so I can make additional ones, because I'm not the only one that wants one of these, as it turns out, which probably comes as no surprise to you. So I actually used the first skull cap as also a mold to produce another stone piece to make more skull caps on. So now that I've completely confused you, I'll start doing this and you'll become clear to you what I'm doing. Okay, sports fans, here's what's next. We're going to do fun with epoxy, and this is West Systems epoxy. This is 105, which is the base, and this is 205, which is the fast catalyst, and I've just mixed it up, so I better move my butt quickly. And the ratio is 1 to 5, so if you're running 5 grams of the material, you'd want 1 gram of hardener, and then you would go up, you would multiply that as you increase the amount of volume that you have. So that being said, this mold's basically prepared. It's silicone. I really don't need a mold release in it, although there's a slime of Vaseline in there, because basically Vaseline's inert and it won't react with anything, so but it's great for releasing things. And so I'm going to mix this up, I'm going to splash coat that in, and then I'm going to start putting in fiberglass cloth inside of that to build up a nice even layer of fiberglass, which is 6-ounce cloth weaved like that. See? So I'm going to do that very quickly before this sets up. Okay, through the modern miracle of chemicals and plastics and petroleum insect sticks and yes, and fiberglass. I have a skull cap and I have a underskull that will be, this will be nice and flexible and thin and very strong tomorrow, and this of course will all be cut off, and cut to be just right, but this will fit me a little looser, and so with my hair, what's left of it, and it's a little bit of padding inside, this is going to be a nice comfortable helmet. It's still kind of sticky, so I'm going to keep my eye on it while I go run some silicone with Giselle, and to pat it down. But tomorrow we'll be able to remove this completely from the head and get that off. There may be a little bit of a lockup back here, but all I have to do is cut, because I don't need it to go back that far. A little cut there. I'm going to cut this above my eyes, okay, and then we'll slide this whole thing off, and then I'm going to pour up some stone inside it so I can make a form off it to make more. But this went very, very well. I got a little puddling there, but for some, this is not a model airplane hull or fuselage, so I'm really good. So now what I'm doing is putting gums on this fella, because of course with a skull they don't have gums. So before I mold this in silicone to make dental acrylic teeth, and I have Giselle here today helping me. Hi Giselle. Hello. Welcome back. She's helping me do that one so it goes faster, and I'm going to have to sculpt the tongue too to put in there. But I would run the clay like all the way back to about that to there, and on the inside too, just right to there. I don't know how much I'm going to use, but we'll see. But this should fit. I'm trying to slow down my camera work because Mary says I move too fast. So I'm going to take this. See, I'm being real steady, real still. Now see this how far down this goes. Yeah, I can't use much of that where it gets to my mouth, which is about to here. That's about as far as I can go. So as it turned out, I didn't need to do all this, but still I'm going to cast back far enough and better to have too much than not enough. But that's the process that I'm working on right now. Oh, here it is, a marvelous, wonderful Thursday. Week short because, well, Monday I took off. Yes, me took a day off with Mary. We had sort of fun. It was hot. But I'm taking this out of the mold. So this is the underskull for our guy. I'm doing this with one hand. I got a couple of bubbles. No big deal because where these bubbles are, I'm going to be removing all of this anyway. So, but there's an underskull by Yumpin Yiminy, and that will eventually attach to this underskull. See, like that, the cap, and that puts this right up against my eyes, as you can probably see. And so this will be cut open, and we're going to run a skin today. After I get that off, after we get this off, I'm going to run a skin so we can, test skin in silicone and put it on here so you'll actually kind of get what I'm going for. Okay, so I've relieved the undercut here and all the way around over to here. I'll probably remove more of this too. I really don't need it down that far, but now I'm going to there we go. Got that off nice and clean. We're going to clean the clay out from this and put it on my head and see how it looks. Okay, so here we go. We got this underskull. And you see the underskull that, I don't know who this is, but this gentleman has it, and goodbye, Avera, and your pop-ups. And he's holding it. This is one of the only existing pictures that I know of that show this underskull in any detail at all. So what I've got to do now is cut this, not my way, but the way they've got it, which is to cut it back pretty darn far. This is all the way around my eyes, back out to about here, just above the nose, and kind of up like that, down like this. It's kind of like a raccoon. That's too much. Actually, maybe I should do this side a little bit more on this side. It's something about like this is what they have. Now I can't see the other side, but I can assume it's the same over here. So I need to cut all that out. A little higher, a little lower. And then this is, I can see right where the part is for the jaw, and then out to my actual jaw here. This will be cut like this and that, and this gets removed, and this drops down like that. We're going to do this all the way around. And eventually, you can see the teeth there. Those will be placed in here once I have them, and I'll remove that area of glass. So there's only this like that much, and then there's the teeth. And just like this. And then that'll be hinged. I'm up too high. That'll be hinged with a fairly flexible hinge so that I can do this. And by doing this and kind of rocking this, I'll be able to get a left snarl and a right snarl. Now I'm told that, and I've heard that there were toggles inside that someone pushed with their tongue. I'm very, very, I question that, because if you just take your tongue and you try to press against anything with it, you'll find the strength is not much. Certainly not enough to pull up on foam rubber, which is what that was. It'll be easier on silicone because silicone's softer. But I got to cut out that stuff there and make this look pretty much the same. So he's got the jaw open a bit there, so I know this comes up and closes. So. But that's what we're going to be doing next. So here we go. I got a skull cap on here, and this is how this fits all of this. Here we go. And now you don't have to hear me talk anymore. Isn't that nice? So that's how I have to fit this. I get it to fit just right to my head, and then I can lock it all down, cut the jaw. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I prepared the mold with, really you don't need any mold release for this, because but I did. I put some wax in, some parafilm, silicone mold release, but it doesn't really stick to anything. It just makes it come out easier. And I've mixed up my gelatin, and I put a lot of deadener in it to make it soft and stretchy. And we're going to pour that in. And that was based on these two over here, it was based on these two cups here, which have the clay that was actually removed in order to make the core, because that equals exactly the amount of material that it would take by volume, not by weight, but by volume. So I should have more than enough with the deadener added to that to soften it to get this skin. And you can see, shoot inside there. I've got plenty, and it's pre-tinted, so it's sort of a reddish, brownish. No baldies on it, because I'm going to paint this with Dow Corning thinner, of course, and thin silicone paint. Now on the back side, I'm going to use more of this material pretty soon after it comes out, and put some stretchy fabric on the back and tack it down with more silicone to the silicone, because silicone sticks to itself. And that'll allow me to make attachments to make the lips move. You can see the holes that I put in there, and that'll become apparent to you why that's done in a second here. You look down inside there, George, and you'll see that extra coming out. That's relieving hydraulic pressure. And that turned out to be exactly the right amount to get the skin. And the mold's really closed, really quite well. I don't even have to even clamp it. So, in about 15 minutes this will set up, and then in about an hour we'll open it. So, I'm pulling and I'm pulling. You can see what I'm doing. Get that open. That came off pretty clean. That came off really clean. And it looks to me, there's the overflows, and here you can see the nice blender edge for the lip. And this is very soft, so I have to be very careful removing this. And as soon as I do remove it completely, I'm going to put this on the form. So I think I'm going to let it sit here out in the air a bit first while I do some more work, and then open this. You can see how good the blender edge is around the eyes. It's absolutely fabulous. And this thing is so soft, you can see how easily I'm going to be able to move this skin. So what I got here, if you look inside, Mary, is skin, and which is pretty well cured now. I'm just releasing it slowly but surely, mostly surely. And I'm putting powder on it. That's what's making it look so uneven and stuff, because it's a little sticky. I'll just do that. If you look in there, you can see the beginnings of an ape skin. And so far it looks like a really good one. We'll know in a second. I'll push that back like that, come back on this side, and get this side. You just, with stuff like this, you got to take your time, because you're looking at about $100 and something right here just on the material, and you don't want to mess it up. You can see the wrinkles and stuff, and you really got to take your time. There's the nose coming out, their nose, and we should have a whole skin now. Oh boy, is this thing heavy. There's our skin, which is pretty amazing. Wow. We're going to powder it down a bit like that, and then this fits on this underskull, like so, which goes right up against my eyes, and I will just kind of peel this away. I was a little overzealous, but I think it'll be okay. And you can see how that fits right up against my eyes. It will once I glue it in right. It'll be right in there. Some adjustments to make still. This is a lot heavier than foam latex, but can see that this skin is going to move so well. The lips will snarl. It's all going to work good. Now this, got the jaw in there, so when I have that in there correctly, tacked down correctly, I will be able to, just like in the movie, open up the mouth. That's going to move really good. Much better than foam rubber, though. Unfortunately, there was still some clay in the mold I didn't see right there, but it didn't really cause too much of a problem. So I clean that out with some water. Tiny bit of patchwork, because what we don't do is throw these skins away because there's a little flaw in them. And there we go. So that came out really good for our first skin. So there we go. We got just a really nice skin. I've been playing with it. It's got a lot of powder on it, which is what's making it look so funky. But all the detail is there still, as you can clearly see. I mean, right down to the pore textures. I just need to get a good coat of paint on this with silicone paint. And but again, this is our first skin. It's our first test skin. And of course, this I got a hinge tomorrow. Get a hinge on that so that I can get this working with the jaw mechanism and everything. And then of course from the sides there will be a cable that goes over the top here, comes down to here and pulls a tab, which will lift up our lip. So it's a little thick, so I'm probably going to have to snip away a little bit at the back here to thin it out a bit, but not much. It really moves very natural, so I'll be able to get a good snarl out of it. So very happy. I like the way the mouth closes. Mouth closes really nice, so it's going to have a lot of expression. Really nice. Very happy with that. Very happy with the underskull. So tomorrow we're going to hinge that, get the skin on, and put it on my head and have some fun with it, make it move and stuff. I've also got to mold the teeth tomorrow. So that's going to do it for today on this project, and pretty soon we'll get back to the Star Child. Oh, it's wonderful, beautiful, fantastic Friday, and George jumped ahead of me and opened up the box from Berman. So what did we get?
We got dental approach.
Wow. And they sent me 2 of them. I'll be darned. You know why? Because they were out of, that's Cabasil. Worlds are built on that. You know what that's for, George?
No, I don't.
That is what we're going to thicken Prosaid with, patch rubber. We're going to thicken 2-part silicone with it to patch holes and things in silicone, because silicone sticks to itself. You can actually build it up and sculpt it and actually add wrinkles and things to it, and when it sets up in 15 minutes you would never know that there was a problem with that. So we didn't have any. It's not anything you want to breathe and get in your lungs, but it's wonderful material. It's fiberglass, dust, beads, whatever you want to call it. But this is great. This is all the white acrylic we're going to need to make our teeth here, which I'm going to do the mold on next. Because we need that, and then hopefully I'll start the tongue and the ears today. So remember those teeth? Yeah, the teeth. I forgot to show you this, but it's no big deal. Basically, I'm just building up some water-based clay so that I can get a reservoir area and fill this up with silicone so I can make teeth from that. So you can see here I'm building up the clay, and I'm going to start shoving more underneath here because I need to get underneath there and get, as much as, it's kind of like making a dental tray casting off of a chimpanzee's head. So I'm going to build that up, same way I built this up, and that will give me what I need to pour in some silicone, walk away, and do something else. So here we go. Again, I use, just so you know, when I use, and I will show you this again, and it's the 1065 Since this is in parts, you may not catch all the parts. Hopefully you will, but this is 1065 from Berman's. It's really one of the best RTVs I've ever used, certainly at the price, which is considerably lower than GI 1000. I think it's just as good. So I've now poured these reservoirs of clay up with silicone, and this captures the teeth. And of course now I have these nice molds that I can pour dental acrylic into and have the teeth I need to go into the underskull, which I doubt we'll be able to do that today. You'll probably have to wait till Monday, depending on how long it takes that mold to set up. It's just amazing the things I keep finding out about 2001. I mean, as much as I've studied the movie and read every single book there is on it, and seen the movie over 100 times, I keep finding new things as I make Moonwatcher. And one of the things I found out is I'm starting to work on the ears. So what I found out is that, well, I wasn't sure if this was Moonwatcher or not, but it is. And I'll show you what I mean. Here's Moonwatcher's ear on the left side of his head. Wait till you see what it looks like on the right side of the head. Let's see, I gotta find it. It's completely different. I mean, look at that. There's that side. We've got this curve. It goes like this, okay? And over here, come on, Steve. And over here, it doesn't have that. It goes like straight up like this. They're not exactly the same, which is like a real ear, but this is really a lot different. So I'm glad I know that. And in fact, I have this other picture of him here, and you can really see it there. How radically different it is. So if I want to keep this canon, then I'm going to have to do it that way. And the other thing I found out looking at the 2001 book, the one that looks like looking at the book, the one that looks like a monolith that I have, in that book, I'm looking at some pictures taken not with a movie camera, but with either 35mm camera, probably a 2 1/4 camera, and a lot of light on the face, and I can just see how crude, not crude, but you know, back then sculptors were usually hired from a portrait sculpting background, and so when they would sculpt a human face, they would do it kind of rough, kind of almost impressionistic, and that was carried over into the sculpting that happened back in those days a lot. It only had to look good enough for film, and 70mm film is well, it's twice the size of 35. I don't think it's quite 2K. It's not, certainly not 4K. So once it was on film, it looked great. But the actual things up close, and also Bob Burns sent me today pictures of one of the skins that Stuart Freeborn sent him, and I was in shock how rough they were. Not bad sculpting, rough sculpting. There's a difference. Unfinished, not really refined to look lifelike. So mine is actually a little bit too lifelike, but still in keeping. But I didn't know any of this till I started doing this, and it's really, really kind of cool to learn the history. So now I'm working on an ear, and you know what I showed you about the ears. They are, you gotta get the angle just right, because the cameraman is shooting up and to the side like that. But it's pretty close. The lighting isn't the same, but it's getting there. And so sculpting that out of the Chavant clay, which is the we refer to it as oil-based clay, but this actually isn't an oil base anymore, because if it was, it would react to silicone, which this does not, but it might have some kind of oils in it. And so I'm going to sculpt this one, then I'm going to sculpt the one on this side, which is completely different, because again, I want it to be canon. So obviously what they did was they made ears up separately, like they did in Planet of the Apes. Everybody sculpted a pair of ears. I don't know how big Stuart Freeborn's crew was, but on Planet of the Apes it was a huge crew, and everybody had to sculpt ears. And if you look at all the ears, as I did, because I worked on the TV show and I was around the prosthetics, the makeup, all the time back in the early 70s, because of the Planet of the Apes TV show, the ears are all slightly different. So, and real ears are that way too. My ear is different on one side than it is on the other. I mean, just feeling it, I can feel the difference between the ears. So it's not uncommon that there's that asymmetry. So I wanted to finish up this video by just showing you some pictures of the ear, a little bit more refined and finished. In fact, it's just about ready to make a mold on. I still have another one to do, but we won't be able to start that till Monday. So this finishes up part 2 of the Moonwatcher 2001: A Space Odyssey Dawn of Man build. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.